So yes, good afternoon to everybody and a warm welcome to today's webinar or a session on sustainable construction and permaculture. On Saturday, we discussed rating systems, and now we move ahead to come into the construction details and planning of the site and its surrounding ecosystem. Throughout this session, we'll gain valuable insights from experts leading the way in sustainable architecture and land stewardship. Here's a brief overview of what we'll be covering. We'll be decoding working drawings and construction techniques for sustainable homes and community spaces. We will be exploring innovative materials, passive cooling strategies, and water efficient design for energy smart buildings. This will be led by Mayank Mishra. Applying permaculture principles to develop self-sustaining, climate-resilient farms, understanding efficient dryland farming techniques that conserve water while enhancing soil fertility and crop yield will be handled by Mr. Gopal. I thank both of you for being there at this session and supporting our initiative. I'm going to hand this over to Ankita, who will be taking us through today's program. Over to you, Ankita. Ankita, you here?
Thank you so much, ma'am. Hello, everyone. As we discussed in our last session, this opportunity is now.
Your voice is breaking.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, a little better now.
Okay. Is it okay now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. Actually, I have a bad internet, so please bear with me. Sonam, you could tell me if I'm not audible whenever my voice.
You're not visible as of now, Ankita. So
Yeah, I
maybe
have turned it down, turned off because it's a low bandwidth.
so maybe to continue the sessions, I'll just take on a few segments until Mayank takes over, and then you could come back in.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sorry about this delay. Like Geeta mentioned, we will be covering working drawing, construction techniques, and many more details in today. Not just looking at construction and the built environment, but also the unbuilt environment, and that is where the permaculture and the agroforestry or dry farming techniques come in. This is the intent of this is to help the young practices as well as young students who are a part of our design and build grants and this mentorship program and initiative to figure out practical inputs and insights for their live projects. These insights are essentially of help and support to make sure that the specific designs, in case of the mentorship program, these would be focusing on convention centers, and for most of the other candidates, it's single residence that we are looking at. And we intend to use these insights to equip us with the knowledge to design and build resilient, sustainable spaces where architecture harmonizes with nature and resources are optimized and where the communities also thrive. This session is a special session. So unlike all the previous times where we've hosted Q&A and open discussions, after the lecture, we will have only 10 minutes for those Q&As, and this will be followed up by one-on-one mentorship to these specific projects by our distinguished guests here. Sustainability is a collective effort, and we are grateful to our partners and collaborators who are at the forefront of promoting sustainable practices globally. We are honored to be joined by institutions and organizations such as GBCI, Bio-Environmental Trust, the Rainwater Project, Tarun Bharat Sangh, Out of the Box, Sustainable India, and our media partner, Architects Diary. Their dedication to is indeed shaping the future of our built environment. Now, without further ado, I will now, before handing over the stage and the screen to Mayank Mishra, introduce him quickly. He is the business head and strategist at Shift Studio, a graduate of Sir J. College of Architecture and my senior, has been leading creative research and analytical thinking and design processes at Shift Studio for 16 years. He seamlessly integrates strategy and design, guiding projects across sustainability driven domains. And today he'll be shedding light on decoding the working drawings and the construction techniques, not just limited to the design, but also to the process that ensures sustainability is more holistically, both in the capital initial investment and the capitals of it, as well as towards the maintenance and the process of construction. So, Mayank, you can take over the screen and the stage is yours.
Uh, Thank you. Thanks a lot, Sonal, for this wonderful introduction. And I will just quickly jump to the presentation. I will be showing two projects today. One would be a convention center, another would be a residence. I will be first showing you the concept and the approach to it, and then we'll be talking about what all went into achieving those as the end goal. So I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah.
Not full screen yet.
So, yeah. So is it full screen now? Getting the full screen?
Not yet.
Wait.
Yes, we got it.
Okay. So this was a convention center designed for a project in Jabalpur. It was a competition project set by Jabalpur Smart City. They had a very tough site, which was in the center of old Jabalpur and the new Jabalpur, which would mean that old Jabalpur was pre-British era Jabalpur, which was a completely built up site with the style of construction it had was very closely placed homes and all of those. While on the right hand side, what you see was the British era construction style, where everything was sparse, the buildings were monumental in nature, and they had their own style of construction at that point of time. Um, this site has an interesting approach from various locations, from the old city and the new city both. This is basically what it covers. It also had a proposed green road running parallel to the site, which becomes one of the most important points when we were designing the whole complex. These are some of the pictures which was from that green road. So it was still under construction. Most of it was designed. So what happens at the urban infrastructure level is people do end up designing the green roads, but they don't end up looking at the nearby low roads of what is happening to it. So we had a proposal to actually make it much better. So this was the current situation. And instead of going with the business as usual model, we decided to use the ROW to create a separate walkable area, which could be for the pedestrians. And being a convention center, you would have lots of people coming in buses, which could be public transport provided by the center or by the organizer, which can also, the road outside can also act as the places where people can get dropped off and picked up, reducing the stress on the site. Why I'm saying reducing the stress on the site? Because the site was very tight. It was about 2.8 acres, and they were expecting people in the range of 3 to 4,000 coming into this convention. So the right of way was again redesigned in a way where you can have bus drop-offs, walkable areas, and still use it as a two-way carriageway, which was already planned as it was. It had two existing trees. This was not easy to retain, so we had to let them go. There were some existing schools and other complexes on the campus. This is how the site was. So the rear side is what you see, the green road, which becomes parallel to this road where you see the cursor is right now. So I will quickly jump to the zoning. We had various options for zoning of where to place what. It had a hotel for about 40, 45 rooms with a banquet hall facility, a convention center, and a spillover greens, which was required as a part of hotel or convention area. These are various zoning options, and they had their own pros and cons, which we also shared it in three-dimensional. Right now, I'm just showing you the zoning bit. And the best option that we felt was, see, there was an existing school which they were not sure whether they will be able to relocated it to somewhere in the city, or will it continue to remain on this site? So we planned it in such a way that the school and the banquet hall can have a shared green. So at the evening time, the banquet can have a spillover, while in the daytime, the school kids can use the greens for the play as a play area. This was a school till up class 4, so it was only a primary school. So it didn't mean that you would need a large play areas, but areas where they can actually get together, run, and all. The convention and exhibition facility was placed more towards the road to reduce the congestion and allow quick ingress and egress from the site if there is any parking happening inside. There was a central court which was planned in such a way that it becomes like a buffer area for both these spaces. So this is how it was planned: the banquet, the convention, and the... Now, when we were doing this planning, we had an option to actually locate it, I mean, the orient buildings in a way where the convention center could be incorrectly oriented or the banquet could be incorrectly oriented. By the meaning of incorrectly oriented, I would say that whether it would have a north-south orientation, which would mean reduced air conditioning demand, or which part of it we won't want to compromise on. So we decided to compromise on the hotel part, reason being that we had a good buffer in front of a hotel as a balcony, which could shade the whole hotel block, and we proposed to have a jali that you will see in coming elevation. So east and west light could actually be blocked by the help of balconies, while convention and exhibition, which is a major energy guzzler, I would say, because you have lots of air conditioning demand and also lighting demand. We planned to orient it in such a way that you can actually reduce the air conditioning demand and also have a daily space within those areas, which is not very common. So mostly what we end up looking at, the convention and the exhibition centers generally don't have daylit spaces. Why? The reason being that in past we didn't have large possibility of large projections being done with because it didn't have a very high contrast ratio. Now with good LED screens, you can actually have projections and you can have lots of things happening even in a well daylit space. So we decided to not go with a convention center, which would not be a daylit, but have an exhibition area which could be a completely daylit space. It had an auditorium on top of it. Now, auditorium was a space which would still need to be dark, so that if there is any function happening, it needs to have that kind of focus towards the stage. And that's why the auditorium was decided not to make it completely daylit, while the exhibition areas, the conference rooms were decided to be planned as a daylit space. The other important aspect was looking at the urban design aspect, that instead of creating a space which would actually hamper the movement, we decided to pull up the whole mass of the building and use this space as a buffer area, which would act like a stilted space. And this is something which city can use without paying for the convention center. This would act as a as a space for exhibitions and uh, places where people who can't afford to take an exhibition hall can actually take these spaces and use them as a space as an area where they can display and have expo in this part. This is the daylight analysis which I was talking about. So you see the hotel block being placed east and west, the major part, while the convention center has a good north and south exposure to it. These are various shadow analysis which were done at various locations to see what is happening inside the courtyard, shared between both the blocks. Sorry. This is the site plan. I will quickly jump. Left-hand side is the convention, and the right-hand side is the hospitality or the hotel block connected through a bridge. Uh, so this is where the exhibition hall is, and we decided to have good daylit spaces. So we placed lots of windows on left and the right-hand side. Similarly, it had lots of other facilities. Exhibition area was double height space. Then there were other halls which had possibilities of opening towards again south and allow the south light inside these smaller 200 and 300 seater seminar and other banquet types of. And on the right hand side is what you see the hotel area. The topmost floor was again the convention main activity, the auditorium block, which would have about 1,000 people sitting inside it. And this we earlier planned to have a flat floor, but later on client decided to go with raked floor and not a flat. The good thing about having a flat floor, which we felt should have been done, but it was a client's call, was that you can use it for multiple types of activities, which is now very common. And you can also use these kind of seating, which can be actually pushed, and it could be mechanized in a way where everything can go back and you can still have a large floor area. These are some of the views which were of the initial stage. Again, I will quickly zoom in. This is the floor, which is completely tilted, which allows people to use this as a free of ticket area and can be used for smaller exhibitions where people don't have to pay for it. The top floor was the auditorium. We allowed a good winter sun to enter the complex and summer sun to get uh, cordoned off by using horizontal fence. And I will also discuss about the roof and other areas in coming slide. This is the section through the block, the hotel block, banquet at the lower floor, restaurant, service floor, and the hotel block on top. Now, these are some of the simulations which we did early in the concept design stage to make sure that whatever we are planning to have a well-lit convention exhibition hall, whether we are able to achieve it or not. So this was some initial study that we did. Again, some more studies to show, okay, we are getting a good amount of lux level. So anything above 300 or 400 is a good lux level, because then you can have your independent lights in case you need to highlight any product or something of that sort. These are some of the views. So important aspects of designs were to have a green road wherever there is no heavy traffic movement, which could end up looking like this. Mainly pedestrian first policy, vehicular parking in the basement, the rooftop to be used as a productive landscape and for solar photovoltaic. The glazing to be faced to north and south, maximum plus or minus 15 degree, which is what we tried, and also have enough shading device to it so that you don't get blockage, so that you don't get harsh sun coming inside the building. Again, enough depth to allow winter sun to enter. Well insulated facade. This was an important aspect of design, which mostly people don't look at. Now, convention center like spaces have a huge energy demand when it comes to air conditioning. It increases as people enter inside the building, and this is a peak that you get suddenly. It would mean that at any one day, you would suddenly have a huge amount of air conditioning requirement because an event would be happening there. Now, it was important to insulate the facade of the building, make sure that we don't increase this demand from the external heat. That would mean that if there is any event happening in the month of May or June, when there is a much of hot and humid air outside, or if it's only hot outside, we should not increase the heat load inside the building because of external conditions. And all that you need to cater for is the people who are coming inside the building and to cool that space. And that's why we propose to have a well insulated facade. This was one of the pictures which we showed to the client early on to have them and make them feel confident that this is doable, because we have done something like this in our buildings which are about 15, 20 years ago, which gave the confidence to the client. Using low embodied energy material, I will quickly jump. I think I'm, and that would mean using local stones wherever possible, allowing rainwater to percolate through means of bioswales, and use of lots of stones and other materials, and have a rainwater either stored or recharged. These were some initial diagrams which we shared with the client. This was during the concept stage for the energy of how it could become a smart grid-based building, and water diagrams which would show how each drop of water is actually traced to STP, then goes to the treatment and then used for the chiller, or goes for the irrigation, or is being reused for the flushing purpose. When it comes to air conditioning, we decided to have a district cooling system, which would mean that in places where there is exhibition happening or an event happening, at that point of time, all the 45 rooms which are occupied in the hotel would not be occupied because people staying in that hotel will be using this space here. So we decided to have a district cooling, which would mean sharing of air conditioning between both the buildings through a chiller. So in that case, you don't have to provide for two cooling plants, and also you can actually look at the diversity and provide air conditioning where it's required, not a place where you are doing air conditioning in both the buildings and actually letting the energy being wasted. So these were some of the images. I will now quickly jump to an important aspect of design, which I wanted to highlight. Now, when we design a building like this, it's very important for architects to put this thing in front of a client to make them understand what all goes inside a building and what are stages they should expect. Generally, the market practice now, post 1990, has become that the day concept design is finalized, people expect that the construction can start in a week's time. And that's not the truth. Reason being that the more time you spend in designing and planning of a building, the more accurate you would be at the end result. So if I have designed something which would have X, Y, Z feature in it, and if I plan for it well in advance, I would be able to achieve that. And how can I achieve that? That would be mean that I have to break this whole complex project into various stages of planning. The first stage of planning is what I showed you was a concept design stage. This is where you actually set the goals for the project. And it would mean looking at the sustainability aspects, daylight aspect, air conditioning aspect, the lighting, getting client to agree for the cost. I'm sorry. I will.
We lost your feed.
Yeah. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yes.
So this is what goes into a concept design stage, and these are the general deliverables in the concept design stages, which would include all of these, including lots of reports, the sustainability analysis, the traffic flow, the design basis reports for the structure, for the electrical, for the plumbing, and all of that, and a project budget, which is very important when it comes to a live project. Reason being, most of these features actually, by the time they have to be executed, are thrown out of the window because they have not been budgeted for. So if you budget them from day one, and if you make it integral part of the whole scheme, you would be able to execute it because the client knows, okay, I don't have to pay extra for it, and actually it's helping me. A simple example: if I would not budget for insulation, what would it end up being? uh, the insulation will not be implemented in the project because that cost has not been taken into consideration. What would that mean? That would mean that your air conditioning demand would increase. That would also mean your electrical demand would increase. What would that mean to the client? It would mean instead of buying a 100-ton chiller, the client would end up buying a 150-ton chiller. And we say, "Chalo, 50 ton hi to extra lag raha hai." But in the overall life cycle cost of that building, this whole thing will have an impact where you will the cost of the insulation, which could have been recovered in 3 or 4 years, will go for a toss, and the building will pay for this mistake throughout its life of about 60 years. So that's why it's very important to have these part of the concept design stage from the early on stages and include them. The second stage and the most important stage is the schematic design stage, which is when you actually get your consultant to vet your design, make sure that they are as per the requirements. You have your single line diagrams, you have your requirements for air conditioning, your locations for all the shafts and other things, so that you don't face the problems when you are going into actual execution. After that comes your statutory approval stage. Now, in all of these stages, you need a sign off from a client. If they don't take a sign off, it would actually mean that, oh, uh, you're just doing it for yourself, and if you don't make them part of it, they will not agree to it at a later stage. The- After that comes your statutory approval stage, which is when mostly you get your licensing done, which is the approvals from the local bodies. And in parallel to that, you would run a design development stage. This is more developed, this is more detailed stage than your schematic stage, because here you are actually putting the real dimension that would end up becoming tender drawings and help the person who's bidding for it understand the building well in advance. If you have not put those things in building in early stages, then the person who's bidding for it will miss lots of important details and end up not voting for it. Then comes last is your good for construction drawings. Now that includes all kinds of drawings, and I would always recommend to have GFC drawings in place before you actually break ground, because otherwise you will end up messing up with the project. I will quickly show one of the project timelines so that you get an idea of what it means when you are sharing it with the client. Now, this is something which we do with our clients even before we get on board, which would mean even before you are about to sign an agreement with the client, you should tell them in advance, expect so many days for the concept design, expect so many days for schematic design. Then comes your statutory approvals. Your design development will happen in parallel, which means when statutory approval drawings are going and getting approved between 29th August to 16th December. Meanwhile, you have a time to finish your design development and tender stages and have good for construction drawing the moment you are about to start the construction. This is how it looks in a bar graph. If you can see my screen, the concept design then leads to schematic. The statutory approval takes longer period. That's where you do design development, tender stages, and good for construction drawings. It's always important to finish it before the actual execution on site start. Uh, I will share some more important insights of this project, which we included during the tender stage, uh, which is some of the drawings. So, so now when I meant that your contractor needs to know all of these details in advance, this is what it would mean your tender drawing should look like. It would mean that you have already included insulation as a part of the building design. It should also show your building elevation of how, if there is a double facade, what would it mean, where will it get supported. Of course, you will not have a good for construction detail for it. Your structural consultant might have not even detailed what would be the size of this member. But at least having this in place will give the person who's bidding for the project understand, okay, so many things needs to be done, and this is how I need to plan for the project. Otherwise, he will either miss on the cost or miss on the time, which is what the client would not want to compromise on. It should also include details like terrace waterproofing, insulation, and all of these things. So these are some of the sample drawing which I'm showing you, becomes part of the tender stage. And there are about uh, 15 to 20 sections that we share with clients and the contractors before they bid for a project. And then thereafter they go into the construction stage where they see the details of each and every one, everything. So now have I crossed the time because there is another project
Yes,
I
yes,
wanted to.
you have. I think what we could do is the rest of this we can take up in
Yeah,
the one discussion with
right.
the 369 Ocker Studio. And we can move to the residential one and quickly cover because
Yeah,
the rest of the six practices have residential
right.
projects. Yeah.
I will quickly jump to the residential one. It's the short one. So this was a project in Defense Colony, Delhi, in an urban landscape which had few existing trees. The client loved the trees, and we too. We wanted to save them. So these were some interior pictures of this existing building. We decided to reclaim all the wood, whatever was possible, the teak which was used, and reuse them. So we labeled them before the demolition started, and made them a part as an inventory list for the tender when it was about to come. The design was again based on the principles of passive architecture, solar passive architecture. So we made sure that you get good winter sun. Now, during the concept design stage, we made more than 40 or 50 options for these kind of plans so that the client doesn't change it at a later stage. We wanted to make sure that they don't end up saying, what if this study room goes on this side and the bedrooms goes on that side. So to avoid that, we did all the iterations during the concept stage itself. That's why you need more time during the concept stage than your later stages where client would end up changing. These were some features. The important features were the super insulated roof. Because from the initial stages, we got clients to understand even in concept design that your wall thicknesses will be much higher, which will give you more comfort. They knew what would be the room sizes. This gave them the confidence to understand, okay, if we are losing on some square foot of area in a prime location like Delhi, we still get better comfort inside the building. And that's why it was important for us to make this part from the concept design stage itself, which would mean an external PACB block, insulated material, insulation material inside, and then an internal wall, which would make a complete thickness of about 450 mm. Efficient double glazing, cross ventilated spaces, Indoor air quality, because Delhi has a huge problem of PM 2.5, we decided to go with an air conditioning system which would allow fresh air to come inside the building without compromising on the indoor quality. So there were various air conditioning systems which we utilized for the building. Low carbon material, locally sourced, and these are some of the pictures that are renders which we created. This is now under construction, getting built in CSP block with lots of stone, the local stone which is available. So the plain color things that you see brown are the stone, and the rest all is the CSP block. These are some more images, and this is how it would look. So it would not look like any other builder house that you see in Defense Colony or in Delhi. But something, well, important thing we did was created a courtyard on the third floor of a building, which was a wow factor for the client. They wanted to feel that, okay, it's a ground floor building only. So on their third and the fourth floor, we created a good connected large courtyard space. This is that courtyard space. These are some more renders. Now, even in this, we made sure that if we are going with CSCP, even before the project started, to go into the construction, we did lots of iterations in the color and other things, got them approved by the client, and then went to the tender stage. These are some details which I will share with the team when I will do one-to-one session. But all of this becomes part of the design. I'm not showing right now services, because services is a very complex process, which I will explain to the team. I'm right now showing architecture because it's important to understand as an architect, it's our job to include all of it. So it's important to include this drip irrigation in the early stages of design itself, and also to make sure that the thicknesses are already in place for everything that we are designing for. And these were the part of, again, tender drawings which we gave to the contractor. And this is where we spent a lot of time. Later on, it became much easier for us to execute it on site. So I will now, these are some more sections. I will stop.
You really rushed through them, Mayank, but thanks a lot for the inputs and the insight. And I'm sure that if 369 Studio agrees that their discussions can be opened up for others, then we can have a few other participants listen into whatever has been left. But it's on them. They can decide whether they want to have a closed session discussion with you or not. I think we covered a lot of ground in the small duration that we had, and it was very holistic with respect to sustainable detailing, the processes, the execution, and I'm sure that for many it, and especially the students who are broadcasting or are watching this from their auditoriums, if I can request them to switch on their cameras, I think it will also be good for the speakers to see the two colleges that are here on board with us. But it kind of offers clearer direction that design is not just what happens in the architectural design studio that many students would kind of perceive. And that is where the intent of these mentorship sessions opened up to colleges is also about that the students understand the execution part and process of it. We request our participants that if you have any questions for Mayank, please type them out in the chat box and we'll take them up towards the end of the next session all together. And Mayank, we request you to please join us in the next session on permaculture as well as the Q&A towards the end
Yeah,
that will follow.
I would love to learn about it.
Super. So now from the built, we will move to the unbuilt, and it is my pleasure to introduce and welcome Mr. K.S. Gopal, Director, Center for Environment Concerns, CEC, and Mr. Narasana Kopulo. With over 40 years of rural development experience, K.S. Gopal has taught at institutions like the Administrative Staff College of India, University of York, and Tata Institute of Social Sciences. He has presented globally and brings an immense expertise in sustainable construction. And he is going to be talking and discussing with us about permaculture. But he will also be joined in by Mr. Narasana Kopulu, CEO of Aranya Agricultural Alternatives. He's a certified permaculturalist from the Permacultural International Institute, Australia, with a dedicated experience of 25 plus years towards sustainable agriculture. As the founding member of the Permaculture Association of India, he's led initiatives like the tree-based farming systems for tribal communities and many more. We have two practices here, Studio Kolam, as well as Studio SAaTh. Studio Kolam has their practice set in Konkan, and Studio SAaTh has an agroforestry project in Rajasthan. Two very distinct locations with respect to the natural resources and the ecosystems. And this session is curated to help them work on their projects, which will be through the individual sessions and one-on-one discussions and deliberations. But with this, we would request Mr. K.S. Gopal to please take the screen and begin the session.
Yeah, I will take the screen. Yeah. How do you take the screen?
You have to click on the green share screen button.
Screen. There are phase that తర్వాత ఇదొద్దు ఇది రా పెద్ద Yeah. Can I start?
Sir, we're not yet seeing your screen. You've not shared the full screen. You only shared the folder.
Right. Full screen share. 1 minute. Aha.
Share the entire screen, then we'll be able to see it.
How does one do that? ఇది వద్దా చేయ తర్వాత అది వద్దు. Doesn't matter. It is what they. How does one do this?
So you click on the green share icon, and then you will see.
Okay, now you can see. Now?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
So at the bottom of, yes, something's coming up. Yes, yes, perfect. Now we can see it. If you can go on full screen mode, then we'll see it in full. It was stopped.
Yeah. Is it okay?
No, it was stopped. It was okay
stopped.
earlier. It got stopped.
Presentation don't share now, later. This is, can you see me now? Can I start?
Yes, yes, we
Okay,
can
sorry.
see you.
Sorry, thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Narsana is already also in. He
Yes.
will come in. Now Narsana and Padma, they
Hmm.
together are doing permaculture. Narsana, I'll just talk for about 5-6 minutes. Then you will talk about permaculture, you and Padma, right? Let me tell you that today I found in the Mint what is mentoring. And this is what a person who got mentored by Tata, Ratan Tata said, to mentor is to empower others to realize their full potential and offer them the guidance they need to reach. I hope Narsana and I and Padma will be able to deliver on that. We are not used to it, that's why I have to tell you. Let me start by saying that I have also worked in the rural areas on housing. And I learn a lot from people, especially women, because I think ecology and women have a much more intimate link than elsewhere. When I was doing this weaker section housing for a government program at 5,840 rupees in 1983, the women wanted an increase in their wage. I found that it was not possible because the budget was very tight. But it haunted me that I came to help people, but actually end up saying excuses to them. So Narsana was also at that time in my team. Then I went back to the women and started talking. They tell you things in an anecdotal way, but because you're all talking about design, I wanted to bring this to your attention. What I learned from them is this. The design decides the structure. The structure decides the material. The material decides which is the labor that you're going to use. So it's very important that we keep which side of society do we want to serve in mind, right? When we are talking about it, right? That's my first thing. 2-3 points I want to just tell you. Biodiversity, we all think is only about plants. It is not. Every aspect has biodiversity. Microorganisms, they also have to be native. bacteria, fungi, nematodes, everything. So I think we must have a wider canvas in understanding what we mean by biodiversity and got caught with it. Because, there is so much of mainstream thoughts that need to be. For instance, I'm not going against what Mayank said, but let me give you one thinking. Mayank sir, in my view, what is the logic, science of drip irrigation, which everybody claims is the state of the art? Drip works on the logic of field capacity to wilting point, which means that you totally wet the soil, which means no biologicals can survive in the soil. And then you go for drying it, which means no biologicals can exist. It is a very good regime for chemicals. So irrigation actually is a tool to mainstream petrochemicals. So unless we don't understand that dimension of development, we will tend to be thinking, and I think we should open up the minds of young people to be more thoughtful about it. So therefore, biodiversity has to be looked at much more, even the native. Today, microorganisms are being multiplied at lab level and put. Do you know earthworms, which are native, move vertically, which means they till the soil? The ones which are industrially bred are all moving horizontal. They scavenge. So I think these are finite points that students of architecture should think about. The next point I want to say is water is something which is measured, but moisture, which is the real element for either biologicals or for plant, does not come into our radar screen. I think we have to change the lingua franca from water to moisture, because moisture is a biological regime, water is a chemical regime. I think these are all important things that need to be. So this ultimately, finally, a lot of what we do does not lend itself for such very clear scientific measurement, because it is biology, it is not physics. Please understand that in biology, we are talking with life and nature, whereas all the others, whether it is stone or wall, we are just talking about inanimate things. So I think if that backdrop is understood, then you will be able to listen to Narsana, and then we'll join. Thank you. Narsana, Padma, go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. We welcome you to the screen, Narsana and Padma.
Hello. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. This is Narsana Coppola. Yeah, as my for Gopal is a Tata maybe mentor, but my mentor is Gopal and Dr. Venkat. So they are the persons who brought me and shown a lot of the world which is really looking for. I think this is one of the
This is
permaculture.
Dr. Venkata Vemuri Rangarao.
Pardon?
Is this Dr. Venkata Vemuri Rangarao?
Yeah.
Ah, we just hosted him about a week back, and he was talking about structures and natures. It's such a nice thing.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, he's my mentor, my guru, and my first mentor who got into this permaculture way of life. To the Gopal.
We had hosted him recently for a workshop on structures.
Yes.
Just a few days ago. So it's a pleasant surprise that.
Yeah, which Venkat? I'm a little. The Venkat is positive in 2011.
Oh,
I think the Dr.
So then obviously not.
I think,
that's why I wanted to check. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So it's not the same person.
Anyway, yeah, great.
Just to supplement what.
Yeah, this is a perma.
Just to supplement. Okay. Just to supplement what Narsana said, I picked Venkat. He was a medical professional, right? The reason I thought he's very good for permaculture, which I introduced in 1984 with Bill Mollison, was because he was the only person in Hyderabad who would cycle and collect foliage, leaf litter from all the streets to put it into his garden, because mulch is the fundamental philosophy in permaculture. Go ahead.
So for me, as a permaculture, maybe new word for many people, but it's not a new word. It's a permanent agriculture. Otherwise, I'm not much with agriculture. In the permaculture, we look for the more permanent cultures rather than agriculture. I think the permaculture is a response and the way of life based on the cooperative and non-exploitative relationship with biosphere and as a part of it. But what does it permaculture? I think what does it for? I think is it really for the agriculture related or any other thing? I think for me, the permaculture is not related to only agriculture. I think the permaculture is a way of life. When I say way of life, it is applicable to number of areas, number of the background. So it's not just only for agriculture. If that is true, I think is the permaculture is talks about more natural way of thinking. I think most of the things which we are every day, I think we use and we throw, we multiply, we I think we can progress, and your lot of things are there. I think in coming to this picture, entire this, I think first of all, whom you want to, this totally the concept has just now when Dr. Gopal was talking about, I think is a design centric. But in the design centric, most of the things are human centric things. How you design it. I think who are you to design the nature first of all? I think the design. Most of the people that talk about the design centric, it means I think the whom you are designing for what, for whom. These are very basic fundamental questions. I think the design is, I think first of all, I would say design is first of all our way of thinking, our mindset. You design first of all your mindset. What kind of life you want to live? What kind of system you wanted? What kind of way of profession, occupation you want to? I think that's the order. If you hierarchy, if you look at the mindset and your way of thinking, and next is your coming to your profession or your what is the relationship, the human. I think what is the human relationship with? What is your relationship with the nature? This kind of design is needed. I think design is little not just what does the design come from? I think it's a natural patterns. Patterns are the basis for your design. If you don't understand, you don't work with nature, I think you should not get the design. I think this is permaculture is an art. That's what just my speaker was talking about architecture. I think what are the designs you are using to your system is so sustainable or permanence. More the sustainable. I love to use the word is permanence rather than sustainable. I think how you do think is very, very important. I think coming to the design centric, I design my life how I want to live, whether ethically or unethically or just exploitative or non-exploitative. That's way of life. I think what kind of deal, what kind of things, what kind of tools, what kind of materials you wanted. I think natural thinking, natural materials. I think these are some of the things we have to sort it out. Then you look for hardly your personal life and your relation with the community and the humanity and what kind of profession you want, how want you think about, and then you're coming to the design your house. I think our previous speaker spoke very well about the dimensions, the light and the sun path. All those are very, very important, which means he is trying to observe the entire nature. How does it working? Based on that, he started his architecture. I think that's very, very important. I think, but the coming to the house is one of everybody has a house. I think how you design your house for what? Only for stay, or you wanted to make it more productive? What kind of product you want? Not up in the permaculture, a lot of principles. Obtain yield is not only production concept, the product, the kind of comfort, the kind of the cool, the climate, the kind of happiness, the joining, the joyness in the house. I think that is my yield. How you get that yield because of your design, your house, not just the comfort, just comfort for whom again. I think these are all matters that is only possible through your way of thinking. The permaculture way of thinking is very, very required, very, very needed. I think that is a house. I think my last resort would be my land. Most of the time I talk about my students. I do conduct every month a PDC. About average 25 students will come, national, international. I think they come with designing their lands. I think out of 25 students, every time only 2-3 people will be land holders. Rest of them are landless. How permaculture is a global concept. How you apply that? I think it applied to the only landholders. What about the landless in this country, in the world? I think not even 60% of the people are landless. How you apply these permaculture principles and ethics to those people? I think that's the biggest challenge. I think don't think always the permaculture is the only design centric. Design not for land, for the life, for the houses, for the kind of structure, what kind of structures you wanted, social structure, environmental structure, and your ecological structure. How you want, what is the benefit of how you want to work with, not against. So this is a very, very fundamental and basic thing. So we look at always we think about most of the time the people. The social structure is totally inequality. If you don't proper understanding your nature, I think you never understand proper nature, you do wrong thing. I think you have to do always thoughtful job, not thoughtless job. That is the source of your information. Your yield could be your nature. I think you go in forest, you think how the kind of diversity, how the diversity in the society, the diversity in the nature also, how you can mimic those things. The natural thing is mimicking is one of the very, very greatest asset in the permaculture. I think that mimicking is very, very important, so that when you understand properly, you do justice to the things what you wanted to do in future. I think that is lacking in most of our education. I think there's a simple thing I'll talk about the diversity is your towns and cities and villages and hamlets. I think there's a lot of the hierarchy wise, if you do everywhere people are there. How do you apply this? I think the permaculture concept is a global, but you have to use the ethics and principles go to global level. When you come to the strategies and your techniques to be locally and site specific, that is the crux of entire your permaculture. That's what many people misunderstood, that permaculture is a design state. This is design centric. But in my teachings, in my life, I am applying those principles at every level, in social structure, economical, ecological, environmental, coming to your financial, everywhere you apply this. I think your job is easy to look at the clear picture. What lens you are using through what lens you want to see that world. I think that is important. This is one of the very, very important, very exciting in the permaculture way of life is definitely you will feel, enjoy, and what you are looking for exactly. I think the coming to the very, very precious elements on this planet Earth is definitely water, plants, and the soil, and the energy. What you are looking for through these systems, what you are looking for, not land. Land, everybody don't have land, but they have to live on this planet Earth very comfortably without much harming to the natural resources. I think this is a sustainability not normally. I think we have to look for the more resilient sustainable word is, I think it is now I think it's more outdated. I think permanence is a strong word. I think the resilient system, we are looking for the resilient thinking also needed. This is one of the source of alternative to the way of life, the alternative way of life, the permaculture. I'm not saying permaculture is everything. This is another alternative of your way of thinking and your alternative way of thinking. So in this, we will deal, one of the things are very, very important, the rainwater. Already, Gopal sir already tried to explain even our architecture, talking about the every drop of water, very, very precious. How you harvest that water. Cities, in the rooftop rainwater harvesting. In the rural area, in the lands, how you want it. In the cities, how do you want drainage system? Lot of sewages, how you want to treat them. The grey water and black water and green water and rainwater. These are one of the very, very important waters which is there. How you deal with what water. I think the water is very precious. Every time I talk about you plant water, then you plant a tree. Without plant water, you cannot plant a tree. I think that is most of our totally it is neglected factor of the water. I think planting water is very, very important. That's what I do that. I think the most of the urban people, urban spaces, a small places, how you make it productive. You want to, your way of thinking should be horizontal and vertical, not or always the vertical doesn't work. Your horizontal also very important, at the same time vertical also very important. In a small spaces, how making your life is so productive. I think how you want to your relationship with the plants, soil and water. I think these are all very, very important aspects to look at. And then coming to the grey water and black water and how much grey water we are misusing. I think we are abusing. How much can be used it? The rainwater, even rainwater in the cities. What are the rainwater we catch and store? I think how much water is store, how much water you catch. That is the equation you have to look at. Whether is your water audited needed, how much water you are getting rainfall, how much you are receiving from the rain, and how much you are holding, how much you are using. I think how much you are abusing, how much you are not using. I think this is the water audited needed as far as the permaculture concept is concerned. I think the waste management. How much waste? I think most of the time we talk about the waste.
That you're sharing with us? Is there a screen, something that you're sharing on the
Yeah,
screen?
I'm coming to I'm sharing. Well, I will go once. Padma will do it. I'm giving the outlines of what I'm going to show you.
Narsana, you are running out of time. Another 5 minutes.
I'll 5 minutes. The water
These
and
are
the
very
compost and
professional,
soil.
not like you and me.
Yeah, the soil and compost and soil and alternative energies. These are very, very important aspects to look into permaculture. I think some of the examples, some of the photos, some of the work which we are doing, we can go through some of the slides. That's just I'm giving a background to how a permaculture person can think. Yeah.
Yes.
Padma, go ahead quick.
Yes, sir.
We can see your screen, ma'am.
Is it audible now?
Can
Yeah.
you do the slideshow mode? Just the full screen? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm not, some of the slides I'm skipping because of running out of the time. Already Narsana spoke about it. And then, so what are the things which we want to do as a designers? Like we want to live in the planet Earth, like environmental conservation, reforestation, land protection. What is that we want to do? So we want to live with the environment and we want to work with the nature. So we need to consider
You're not audible, Padma.
Sir, I think we lost their connection. If you would like to
all
continue.
other things. Like we need to talk about the renewable energy, we need to talk about energy, culture and art, everything we need to talk about. So like those who want to know more about the permaculture is like, you can just read about it. So it's already Narsana explained. It's a conscious design, maintenance of cultivated ecosystem, which have the diversity, stability, resilience of natural ecosystems. Okay. So this already Narsana told about these things, how we can create the microclimate. Especially I want to explain about as architects, when you're designing something, like when we are talking about the how can we create the microclimates. So how we can create the microclimates, what material are you using, what kinds of plants you are using, what is the natural orientation which you are planning. So which species, annual species or perennial species. So how are you going to store the water? How are you going to manage your soil in front of your garden? Like all these things are the very important to maintain and manage of the ecosystem. So these terms and other things you don't need. Like as Narsana said, permaculture ethics are universal. Principles are globally designed tools. You can design and you can, it's a guide how you can design, how you, so there is a permaculture, there is a 3 ethics, there are 12 principles. All these design principles are called design principles. How you are going to apply these principles when you are designing up any of the structure, any of the farm, any of the home, whatever it may be. So how you are going to apply these design principles. So as Narsana said, strategies are bioregional, techniques are local and site specific. So what are the permaculture ethics? Care of earth, provision for all life systems to continue and multiply. So without damaging anything, every life has a right to live on the planet Earth without doing any harm. How are you going to live with the nature? So we have to live and let. That is the principle which we can follow. So it's also energy intensive, not extensive. And also maintain and preserve of all water resources of groundwater, whatever the 4 waters theory which Narsana said, all kinds of waters we need to plan for it. When you are planning for it, plan for whole site. Then when you are implementing it, partially you can implement. So care of people. If you take care of the earth, so you're also like as a people, we are also part of it. What we need, everything we can access it. So like material needs, non-material needs, what you are talking about. I want people when they're constructing their homes, they say like, I want to have a next to park, I want to have a more oxygen, all other things people will talk about it. So if you are designing of those things, if you can follow the natural resources, if we can follow the ethics and principles of permaculture, all these things are possible. Integrate rather than segregate and value the people, work and skills. Like when you are doing something, like there are some skills which is lost. When I'm constructing the natural building, so like there's the carpentry work, like there's people in this area, like the skill has got like extincted. So how are you going to bring the traditional skills? How are you going to save them? This is something which need to be carried forward for the next generations. Once the skill is extended, we cannot bring back. That's what we need to preserve. We need to continue with that. We need to modify with that. And fair share of the governing of our own needs, setting of resources and future needs. Like I have all the resources, it doesn't mean that you can exhaust all the resources. We have to keep all the resources for now and the future generations also. And always work with the cooperative mode, not with the competitive mode. So these are the 3 ethics which I explained. There are 12 design principles. I just go through it. Observe and interact is one of the best principle which we have. And catch and store energy, obtain yield, apply self-regulation and accept feedback, use value the renewable resources and services, produce no waste, design from patterns to details, integrate rather than segregate, use small slow solutions, use and value the diversity, use edges, value the marginal, creatively use, respond to change. These are all called 12 design principles. And then, like, this is my farm. I want to explain a little bit more. This is the Aranya permaculture farm. So, which we designed for by following all permaculture principles. Like how we planned is like whatever we learned, permaculture design, we applied everything on the farm design. So we designed in such a way that all 365 days, how the farm will provide food for us. Not only food for ourselves, food for all life systems. And also, like it will be needing it will be our needs and farm needs also meeting in the same system, like by following the orientations. Like the south side, we have a windbreak. We have a west side, we have a bigger trees where the constructions are there. The site is there. Use the what material? Use the natural materials. And then there's so much of life is there. And there is so many food species are there. How we can bring the biodiversity? There are around 450 species are there altogether. But it's all like by following the permaculture principles. It is something like as I said, all 365 days, how we can generate the food. Food for the humans, food for the birds, food for the microbes, food for everything. It's like a self-sustaining, meeting our needs, meeting their own needs. So that's where it's a permanency. Permanent agriculture can continue in the same design. Like observation of what we can observe. Like when you are designing something, wind, sun, water flow, trees, and surroundings. First observe and then start interacting with any other structure or farm or anything before you do anything. Catch and store energy.
Padma, you are exceeding your time. There is one more question which is there.
How much time I have, sir?
Yeah, I think you should just do your closing.
Okay.
Right?
So like that, we can design the farm. Like this is the small design which I can show. Like how entire water can be stored by designing of these things. There is a big slope. I'm just moving. Catch and store energy in the farmlands. How we can, when it is a dry land areas where there is no water, how you design, what is the material which you use. So there are different places, like how we can use the biomass, how we use the solar energy, how we save the different species of seeds, and then obtain a yield of so many for every life, how we can get the food. So how we can design, like according to your design, and also working with the different kinds of diversified women and men, people, and community. And also sometimes we may have a lot of desires, but what is the climate change is offering for us, we need to keep it in mind and act upon. And using the local resources and producing new ways, try to give importance to always local resources and renewable services, local seed, local fertilizer, those things. How we are using the grey water systems, how you design from the patterns to details. In the natural patterns, how are you going to mimicking in the designing of things? like maybe from the forest ecosystem, any ecosystem you can take. Those designs, if you can mimicking in our design system, they are more resilient. So natural guilds, how are you going to create? How are you going to, like, there's a circular pattern, there's a random pattern, how we can integrate different elements into the systems for more energy, and always start with the small and scale it up, and like that, like in a like a 1 acre place. So the how the diversity is giving so much of energy, so much of food. So these are the things which we can have in the permaculture, how you design your life, how you design your systems. So like I also work with the farmers, and the farmers, though they have 100 acres, they don't have food. But people have a 1 acre of the land. Because of their design, they could be able to access all kinds of food. It's entire thing is how you design. So what is your objective of it? Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Padma ma'am. Thank you, Narasana sir. Thank you, Gopal sir. And I would like to specially thank Gopal sir for his thought-provoking quotes today. And Narasana sir, like you mentioned, the application of permaculture should be everywhere in our cities and towns, and how it is very essential. This should be discussed more, and the more common public will know about it, will make them more sensitive towards these kind of things. And I'm really glad to be part of this session today. I think everyone here is as well. Now we will have a discussion on question and answers. We'll open the floor for the Q&A session now. We have few questions in the chat box, and I would like to request everyone else to write the questions in the chat box now, or you could ask yourself by turning on your cameras or mute your mics. You can ask the questions to all three speakers. Okay, so one we have from Pradnya. She's saying it will be great if you can tell about services, about design. As a student, I want to know more about services and modern technologies. I think this is for you, Mayank sir.
Yes. So I will try to cover this because it's a huge topic. When we design at Shift, services takes over at least I would say 40% of our time. And actually, in reality, services is the most important aspect of design because that's where your DNA comes into play. When I say services, it would mean all kinds of things which would be linked to air conditioning, your electrical requirements, your water, your landscape, and all of those parts become part of the design itself. I will show you a simple example of how services play a very important role. One of the major guzzler of energy is air conditioning design. So I will try to share something on screen and explain how an architect can make a huge change in it, while most HVC consultants won't go in that direction. This is another project which I didn't share with you guys, was in Jeddah for the Consulate General of India, which is where these are some slides that I can quickly show you, which is where we did the sun path analysis of the whole thing and also analyzed the dry bulb and and the relative humidity map of that city, Jeddah. Uh, Jeddah being a place where the maximum temperature doesn't go above 40 degrees Celsius, but the humidity level goes as high as 90% humidity. And this becomes very challenging when it comes to designing of a building of how you can reduce the demand of air conditioning. If I go through a traditional route, any air conditioning engineer would say कि आपको पूरा you have to air condition the whole building throughout the year. And if I take a step back and say, okay, what is it that I can do to reduce it? Is I would try to plot it in a psychometric chart with the help of with the help of my air conditioning consultant, and find out what is happening and what. Now, this psychometric chart is very important because at one side it shows you the temperatures. The below you see the temperatures, and on the right hand side you see the relative humidity. So if it's these these lines are humidity lines and these lines are temperature lines. Now, when you plot the whole season, complete year, this is what you get. And then you start getting various subsets of it, which would mean various technologies or applications that can be done. Now, this number one, something where the temperature is not above 25 degrees Celsius, it's less than 25 degrees Celsius. And also humidity is under control. It is not as high as it's expected. In this kind of scenario, you can actually get a comfort by just not doing anything. The second one, number two, is you can actually achieve a good comfort, which is here by just shading a building. So if you shade your building, you can reduce your air conditioning demand dramatically. Now, there are various other stages where you can actually look at. Now, this red is the portion which is the most complicated one, where number 8 is fan force ventilation, which would mean through cooling. So instead of cooling for complete 8760 hours, we planned to cool it only for limited amount of time and not throughout the year. Now, this in operational terms would mean ki, okay, you will still install an air conditioner, you will still have that capacity, but you will not run it throughout the year. And to do that, in services, you will ask your services consultant, your air conditioning consultant, to make sure that you have enough data points, which you can do with the help of sensors, of just pushing in the air in the night time, or just running the fresh air system and not starting your air conditioning, or as simple as opening a window and allowing that fresh air to come inside. And this was one of the important aspects of design which we did. The other thing is what we do, make sure that the client and us are on the same page. Is if you can see my screen, this is an comparative that we make with the help of our air conditioning consultant, which would have all kinds of air conditioning systems like, okay, a business as usual building with the air cooled system, with a double glazed glass, with various types of air conditioning. This is all during the concept stage I'm talking about. Okay. And what would be your air conditioning demand? These are all plotted numbers. It talks about total power requirement. It talks about energy tariff. How much are you taking from the grid? How much is it running from diesel generators? Which would mean kitna load shedding hota hai wahan pe. Your working hours, how much energy will get consumed throughout the year? What would be the maintenance cost, the operator cost, the total operational and maintenance cost? And that is what you plot. And when you see what is happening with various air conditioning systems, is here the left hand side is when your building is getting op operated. Now the green is the costliest one, if you see. But over the years, the green becomes the cheapest one. In 8 years' time, you will see the green becomes the cheapest because the operational energy reduces dramatically. And that's where the clients are able to take these kind of decisions. So this is the capital cost investment, and then this is the operational and maintenance cost. So if I was able to answer, it's an important aspect to start questioning your consultants from day one. What is it that you're doing? As simple as, why don't we have fans in our offices anymore? Most MNCs don't have fans. So you can even question, why can't we have an office with a fan and reduce your air conditioner from 24 to 27 degrees? And if you look at most air conditioning technologies, I've been following that since last 20 years now. When I was in college, they have not changed dramatically. The systems are same. The application style has changed. So it's the way that you apply them in a project would change.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mayank sir. Next is there any experience required for application of permaculture for smallholder farmers who own an acre or less land? Any one of you can answer, Gopal sir or Narsana sir.
Um, I think this is the size is not criteria for permaculture. You can start from 1 square meter to 1,000 hectares. It's not the is not a technique. It is the connection, the kind of mindset to what you want to do with that piece of land. I think the at the same time the small and marginal farmers or smallholders have a lot of needs from that land. Then how you look at that? What are the capability of their soil, that land? what are the resources, local resources you have, what really you wanted to do. What is your need and what is the land need? You have to look at both sides. I think every need cannot get from that piece of land. But you have to, first of all, you have to look at the what kind of seed you have, what kind of resource you have. I think it's not non-chemical, chemical versus. It is only just understanding your local resources and how much what you wanted to do on piece of land, how productive you wanted, what kind of production you wanted, what is your needs. I think that is a very, very basic. At the same time, you have to try to provide and gather your own information, and slowly you have to start with working with the soil and water and your own seed and crop and diversified, multiplied. Lot of things are needed. I think that is you need to make it a more design aspect into it. Just your mindset, first of all, what you want to get out of that. Just you design that and then you come and then you can talk about or you implement or you do certain things. First, you have to stop most of the things from which is coming from outside. I think then you find your own needs, the land needs and the land itself, not from outside. I think that is a very, very important aspect of 1 acre old farmer. If you do something better what they were doing earlier, I think there's a great success working with the small and marginal farmers. Definitely, they are the future of the country.
Yeah, if I can just add, see, the operative principle is how do you optimize every productive factor? If we keep that in mind, the rest will follow. So in terms of we're talking about improving the soil health, which is all time consuming. We're talking about improving the biology, the diversity. Permaculture, I will tell you, starts giving you dividends after year 7. It's a long haul. There is no quick fixes available to them. So the focus should be how do I optimize each of these? A part of it can be vertical. So there is no end to creative minds, which is centered on observing and then trying to bring the change. Of course, will it yield as much as a 10-acre ROM? No, it will not. But that is not the way at all to look at it. I think there is enough for everyone's need and not everybody's greed should be the principle that we should promote as a societal value.
Thank you, Gopal sir. There was a similar question from Siddhesh Kolambakar. He was also asking about what are the basic bare minimum requirements for the same. Siddhesh, if your points are covered, then we can move on. But if there is something you would like to ask the
I
speakers.
think because of paucity of time, Ankita, Siddesh can take his one-on-one questions and we can move.
Okay, sure. There's one message from Jacob. He would love to connect with Narsana sir regarding a program for sustainable bamboo. We will share his information with you, Jacob. You could connect with him. The other we have from 369 Arcause Studio. What are the specific design principles for integrating permaculture zones with the storm water management system?
Yeah, the first one I'll answer very nutshell. I like the bamboo project, no doubt, because that's the only plant which I can see regenerative. I think if you keep cutting, the more cut, the greater shoots. I think you have to work with that kind of plants, definitely in the semi-arid and arid areas. That is why the most of our forests are today just because we lost the bamboo in the forest because the entire trees are, I think, drying and most of them are dying. I think that is a very regenerative species. It's a grass variety. I think I love to work with that project. I don't have any problem. I am also planning to work within Adilabad and other forest areas where I am from. I think it is a very great project. No doubt I can work with them. Sure. Then coming to the second one, the storm water. I think the storm is which area you are from. I think the more rainfall area, a lot of storms happening. I think how much you can hold, that much you hold, rest you release. Don't try to entire drop of water, every drop of water you don't need to harvest. Some water, how much your land capacity of your water holding, that much in the form of moisture you can store and you store in the physical water, but entire water don't try to catch and store everywhere in the land. Some portion of land can be dedicated to the land water harvesting. Entire land not meant for that. I think you have to produce something else also.
Yeah, if I can add, Narsana, to what you said. Sir, let me put it this way. How do our rivers be perennial? For example, it comes from the hills of Godavari or Krishna. Why is it perennial? It is perennial because all the storm water is stored in the soil and slowly released. If that is not understood, we are in a rush to get rid of the storm, right? Now in Bangalore, which many people ask, do you know that the tar, all the medians are full of tar, not a single drop of water will go it out. So therefore, what happens? We are trying to get rid of storm water when actually it can be easily slowed. The technique is to slow it so that its fury is avoided, but its pleasure is absorbed by the soil. I think those are the fundamental changes we need to bring in the way we look and analyze a question. Stormwater drains, sir, certainly micrograded gravel pits could be one solution for it. But the soil is the biggest reservoir for water. We have not understood that at all. And that is where the problem lies.
Thank you so much, Gopal sir and Narsana sir. There are two more questions for permaculture. Sonam, should I go on with them?
Let's take the question by for Mayank, because his session afterwards with 369 Studio is going to be a closed one. Others who have permaculture related questions, we can move you into the breakout room with Gopal sir and Narsanna sir and Padma ma'am.
Okay, so there's one more question for Mayank, and then we can go on with the permaculture ones. The one is from Shriya Bots. How do you generate the sun path and shadow analysis of a particular site? The charts which you had shown in the site studies part were very insightful. So
Yeah. So just to add to the what Gopal sir said, actually soil is the biggest, I would say, gift of the God that we have got. It is the only way that we can fix our carbon issues. It's the best way to actually sequester as much carbon as you can, because the more the soil is healthier, more the mulch is, the more the depth is, the better it is for us as an environment. I would like to add that. Just for the software part, Ecotech is one of the software, Rhino is other, and there are multiple softwares that you can see, and you can even Google these things where most of the weather-based data gives these sunpath diagram online. There are also books which we had in our library, which has some of these of important cities, the sunpath diagram of important.
thank you, Mayank sir. Now we can move to the breakout rooms. Sonam, you will trigger,
Yes.
you'll open the.
Yes. So what we've done is we've created two rooms. 369 Awkward Studio. You will have, I'll maybe a better thing to do now is to stop the recording. 369 Studio, you need to confirm that at least one person in your team has the right to record the session on your computer. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a record icon. Just click on it and ensure that you have the right to record it to your computer. And the same goes for Siddhesh and Harshita. Please confirm that you have the right to record the sessions to your computer.
Sure, I'll do that.
Sure, Sonam, I'll just check that.
Do not click on record to cloud. That is what has happened right now. If you record to cloud, then it stores with us. So you can stop the recording, and once we enter the individual sessions, you can try it up. I'm opening the rooms now.
So once again, sorry, they have to record to their machine.
Huh?
They have to record to download onto their system. That's what you have to tell them.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
So record to the computer option. When you click on record to the computer, it means that it will download on your systems.
Yeah, sure.
That is the only way to record breakout rooms. Otherwise, whenever a host is recording it on cloud, only the main session gets recorded. Okay. So I think we've now opened.
Sorry, Sonam, I don't have the option to.
Okay.
I think only one person will have it, right? So if Siddhesh has got it, then it's okay. Or both can record.
No, both can record, but I tried to offer it to Harshita many times before while the session was running and her system was not taking it. So I think
Okay.
we'll do it for her. It's not an issue. So with this, we are opening up all the rooms. Gopal sir, Mayank, Narasana sir, Padma ma'am, you'll receive a trigger which says enter a breakout room. For permaculture, the sessions are still open. So the participants who stay back into the session will can let us know, and we will transfer
Figure
you
that out. So
for
I'd like to just thank Gopal sir and Mayank and the teams for being so large-hearted and sharing. And I think you're also going to enjoy the conversations in the breakout room.
Thanks, Geeta. So Gopal sir, did you receive a trigger? Yes, I think they did. All right. So is there anybody else who would like to be assigned to the permaculture room? We will not be able to assign anyone to Mayank Mishra's room because the request from 369 Arcause Studio is to keep it a little closed door because they're going to discuss a lot of their own personal project. Any takers? Permaculture group, okay. So Jacob Matthew, moving you to permaculture. Yes, requesting all candidates who will be joining in now to please be listeners, passive listeners, to allow the mentees to take their project discussions forward. Shri Varshini, I am moving you to permaculture. Shri Adobes, I'm moving you to permaculture.
Is there any way you can actually mute the other participants in the breakout room and allow only the mentor and mentee to speak? I think you should do that and give them the priority. Okay, yeah.
We'll do that. Archit will not be able to allow you to join Mayank's room. Like we said, it's a closed door.
No, I think it's over. The discussion that Mayank, that open part of it is over. That's it.
Yes.
Right? It's got nothing more in the sense of, yeah, it's a discussion now that's Mayank is having. That's it. Yeah.
Lakshana, moving you to permaculture. Ankita, you could join into any of those rooms and see if the sessions are running smoothly.
Should I go on in the permaculture one? Or
Whichever, like both.
okay.
Hop, skip. Yes. Pradnya, moving you in to permaculture. I hope I've added everyone who's interested in permaculture into the permaculture room. Is there anyone else? You may have to leave the meeting now if you're not interested in the rest of the session. So for those who may be still confused and are still waiting on, the open session or open for all session has concluded. The next segment of the mentorship is closed one-on-one discussion. One of the participants and mentee, Siddesh Kolambekar, has agreed to keep his discussion with the mentors on permaculture open for all. And hence, those who are interested in joining in the permaculture room can just let us know and we will add you to the group. But the session and the discussion with Mayank is closed room. So requesting the rest of you to please leave the meeting if you do not want to move into the Atavullah, should I assign you to the breakout room. I think you're the only one who's not yet been.
Yes, please, ma'am.
You received a trigger right now?
Yeah.
All right. You'll have to click on the 4 squares at the bottom to leave. Yeah. Okay. Abhijit. BRB, I'm moving you into permaculture. Yeah. Abhijit, you asked me if it's possible to access Mayank's resources. You have access to this on YouTube that we've broadcasted it already. And then the recording will also be uploaded on the dashboard in the system. If there is anything specific that you're looking for, Mayank has also given 2 more sessions on SAaTh, and both of them are up on YouTube. So you could check those up. There are 3 more projects that were covered in the 2 of those sessions. And if there's anything specific that you're looking for, Abhijit, you could just type it out and we could send that email to him requesting for those details. Thanks. Anyone else? Did we miss out? I don't think so. All right. Thanks, everyone. Vineet, I am adding you to the permaculture group. Geeta, which group would you like to join?
I won't be joining a group, Sona.
ठीक है. Okay, so I'm moving into one group. I'll check where Ankita is. are 4 members. Who would you be? Kirtana or Sneha's iPhone?
Sneha's iPhone.
Okay. All right. We will assign you to the breakout room. We
Hey Harshita, this is Jacob here. I sent you a message. I don't think you may have got it, but anyway, I will retype it and send it when we reconvene.
Okay, thank you.
Padma ma'am, can you hear us now?
Yeah, that Sneha phone is her.
Ah,
I
yes,
think Sneha is her daughter's name.
right. Yes.
They live actually in a forest.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, my laptop is not working. Somehow internet problem is there. Then I came out and started with my phone.
Okay, good.
No
Thank you.
problem.
Okay.
We were just introducing Harshita and Vineet. They have a project based out of Rajasthan. Harshita, you will have to switch on your cameras and make the presentation quickly, the part that was missed till now by Padma ma'am. And we'll hit record.